Hello. I hope everyone's having a lovely day or night. Welcome back to my coffee training series. Class is in session. Take notes if you would like, or if not, you know, you can always refer back to the VOD. Yippee. You can get a snack or a hot drink, because today we're going to be talking about how to read coffee shop menus. Thanks to one of you guys for suggesting this topic. It didn't occur to me because, you know, I don't have trouble reading them, or understanding them. But a lot of people, you know, when they go into a coffee shop or a cafe, they see the menu and they're like, I don't know what any of these things are. So I'm here to help explain those things. Maybe these will be useful, or maybe not. You know, if you don't really like going to cafes, or if you don't go to them often, then maybe this will just be some fun trivia for you to know. Just got out of uni class and now going to my favorite class. You mean this? Is this your favorite class? Or are you talking about actual class? Because then, you know, if you're in school, you shouldn't be watching. You should be paying attention to real life school. But before we get started, let me just quickly read. Tect, thank you for the super. Arigato, thank you. And happy birthday. Thank you so much for spending time with us on your birthday. Learning about coffee shop menus. I hope you have an amazing birthday. Please treat yourself. Mish, thank you for the super as well. Thank you. And Aster, welcome back for 2 years. Thank you so much. Thank you. I get so anxious about ordering. I have to plan ahead before I get to the shop. It's okay. Me too. I sometimes will just I look at the menu beforehand and I have like what kind of drinks and stuff I want, sorry. And then after that, I have a backup plan for in case they run out, because you know, sometimes it's not available. As a barista, I'm still learning. I'm so my brain stopped working. I'm so I'm so ready to be of help, hopefully. Sorry, my brain isn't working, and that's not a great thing to say when you're supposed to be teaching something, so hold on. I got a little brain fog for a second. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna be talking about coffee shop menus because sometimes they get confusing, and sometimes it's like hard to know what you want when you don't know what the things are. So we're going to hopefully leave today, or leave the stream, knowing a little more than we did before, and hopefully feeling a little more confident when ordering at a coffee shop, so that you can, you know, get your order in, and then all you have to worry about after that is just finding a table, sitting down, and relaxing. Hasuda, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Arigato. Alright. So, another thing to preface, of course, every coffee shop has a different menu. Some have a lot of things, some don't have a lot of things, some have seasonal things. So I'm only going to be helping cover the staples, the main things, which is coffee and espresso. Jenny, thank you for the super sticker as well. Thank you. All right, everybody. So before we talk about the drinks, we have to know what's the difference between coffee and espresso. Coffee versus espresso. So, coffee, or drip coffee most of the time, is brewed using a medium to fine grind, and it's brewed using gravity, which means the hot water is poured on top with no pressure. Gravity just brings the hot water into the coffee grounds, and then you get coffee. And it's also brewed using a standard coffee to water ratio. You don't have to know these ratios, it's just, you know, if anyone's interested. In comparison to espresso, drip coffee is a larger drink and has a lighter mouthfeel. Understanding the difference between espresso and drip or batch brewed coffee will help you understand coffee shop menus no matter where you are, because these brewing methods are universal. They might have different words for them, but it's all usually the same. Sorry, my nose. And then we have espresso. So some things to clear up beforehand is that espresso is not a specific type of coffee bean. It is not a roasting style or any sort of predetermined type of dark roast coffee. Espresso is just a method of brewing the coffee. So drip coffee or batch brew versus espresso. Different ways of brewing the coffee. But by definition, espresso is a concentrated coffee, and it's brewed by, if you refer to our first stream talking about brewing basics, we know that espresso is brewed by forcing hot water through finely ground coffee. And the result that you get is a tiny drink, in that tiny ass cup, with very prominent flavors, velvety body, and a beautiful crema on top, which is that light brown sort of foam that you see on top of espresso. A properly brewed espresso is full of flavor. They can go from sweet to floral. They offer a balanced acidity, and they have just the right amount of bitterness so that you can have a good experience. It shouldn't be all bitter or, you know, all one thing. There should be some complexity. There needs to be a balance of different things to create a good experience. But, you know, for a lot of people, for them, espresso is just bitter or whatever. And that's okay, because to the untrained palate, it's just bitter or it's just sour or whatever. Chances are you're not going to be drinking straight up espresso. So that's okay. That's why we're going to go through the different drinks that will be available. When I think about it now, I actually did miss one drink, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, knowing the difference between just coffee versus the brewing method of espresso, basically well, you'll see the different kinds of drinks because the brewing methods are very different. So let's move into the actual drinks, because now we're gonna know how to differentiate. Because usually at a cafe, there will be coffee drinks and espresso drinks. So you'll know, depending on what each drink is, what you're looking for. So let's go into coffee drinks. I'm using some things from past slides, from the first stream, but basically drip brew. You might have seen these machines in a lot of cafes because it's kind of the industrial version, like the industry standard. Usually there's one or two of these side by side so that they can batch brew a large amount of coffee at once, so they can have it in the case that somebody just wants, you know, normal hot coffee. So you can see this right here is the basket where you put the filter in, the paper filter, and then you pour the coffee grounds in, and then from here, the machine, it pours hot water into that filter basket, and then in this little hole here that you can't see, the liquid goes in, and it fills up. And since it's meant to keep things hot for a long time, that's where the coffee is. So if you're out there and you're like, can I just have a hot coffee? Chances are they're getting it from here. So we're gonna go through a little overview. A batch brew or filtered coffee is black coffee brewed by a machine that you see on the left, pouring hot water over a bed of coffee grounds with a paper filter to separate the solid particles. In a cafe, a batch brew typically they make every morning and throughout the day as needed. Because if a lot of people are ordering normal drip coffee or just hot coffee, obviously you will have to make more throughout the day, which is why a lot of places will have two sides, because one will have coffee, the other one, you know, you can make when the other one is starting to run out, so that you don't have to have people waiting for the whole process to finish. In specialty coffee shops, they might offer a regular house filtered coffee, or they might have a rotating menu of different coffees to try. Or they'll tell you what coffee beans are being used for the drip coffee at the time. Yes, this is for normal drip or hot coffee. So for example, the cafe that I used to work at was a specialty coffee shop, so we displayed what beans we were using for the drip coffee for the batch brew that we were using. So everyone knew what beans they were in case of, you know, they wanted to buy the beans and do it at home themselves, or if they wanted to know what notes are meant to be in the hot coffee. Gabriel, welcome back. Thank you so much. Oh, and Bundy, thank you for the super. Arigato. Thank you. Yeah. So, using a batch brewer, it takes out most of the human error out of the equation. Once everything is dialed in, you know, all the parameters, the number stuff, once all the number stuff is figured out, then all you need to do is just, you know, grind the coffee, put the filter, and then the coffee grounds, put everything in, and then you just press the button, you know, and then it just makes the coffee. So that way you don't have to worry about it. And that way, as the barista, you can focus on making the more complicated stuff, which is the espresso drinks, because those require a lot of attention. But this, you can kind of, you know, set it and forget it. Well, not so much forget it, because, you know, if it's old, you don't want to keep it there the whole day, you know? After a certain amount of time, you want to switch it out in case if the coffee's too old. But usually it's served in a 12-ounce cup and tastes this is my personal preference, tastes better without milk or sugar if the cafe is using nice coffee. But you know, it's up to your preference. Sometimes some places it seems stale. Yeah, so that means that they didn't change it out. They're not paying attention to the time, and they just left it there. And if it's like, it's kind of like, oh, if it's still full and it has coffee, then we're just gonna serve it until it's empty. And that's not really what you want to do. You want some quality control. So for that cafe, they probably don't have good quality control. If it tastes burnt, if you're going to a place and it tastes burnt, then they definitely don't have the right parameters set for that drip coffee. Because it shouldn't taste like that. Yes, or they didn't clean it well. There's a lot of factors as to why it would taste bad. So, just a lot of things to pay attention to. You would think, because it's just normal hot coffee, right? But if you want it to taste good, it needs to have the right parameters. The machine itself also needs to be cleaned properly at the end of every day and maintained well. Otherwise, all that extra debris or stuff that you don't clean out, it's gonna be inside the next batch of coffee you brew in there. Nissan, welcome back. Hello. I'm happy to see you. I hope you're doing well. So this is drip brew or batch brew, depending on, you know, if you work at a cafe or where you go. Do you have a machine you recommend? It's hard because these machines are only found at cafe. You're not gonna have this at home, you know, because there's no need for it. At home, you would probably do the next slide, which is pour over, because this is just a single, or a few servings. We went through this in the previous stream as well, talking about brewing methods. So that batch brew is mostly for cafes because you are able to hold a lot of coffee and serve a lot of people. Lotus, welcome back. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my god. I hope you're okay. Please prioritize your safety and health over my stream about coffee. The VOD will always be here for later if you want to watch it while you're recovering. Okay, but yes. Pour over. So most commonly what cafes will use if they're serving pour over is a V60, which is just a type of these, like the thing on top, the cone shape. So a V60 hand brew or manual pour over basically is a shrunken down version of the batch brew that we saw previously, and is manually brewed to order by the barista. So this is hand poured. So if you order a pour over, it will probably take some time because a person is doing it by hand and not a machine. You can use a lot of different ones, but like I said, most commonly I've seen is a V60, which it looks kind of like this. If you're visiting a good specialty coffee shop, typically there will be a few different coffees that you can choose from to have a pour over. Different flavor profiles, processing methods, origins, things like that. So, for example, the specialty coffee shop I worked at, we had a few beans you could choose from for pour over. You could choose different beans based on their flavor profile, based on their origins, like Colombian, Ethiopian, processing methods like washed or dried, things like that. And typically they will serve 200 to 300 milliliters of filtered coffee. Pour over, I highly recommend that you drink without milk or sugar, because pour over has a lot more complex flavors than just a batch brew, because this is a single or 1 or 2 servings. There's going to be a lot of flavors in there that you can find or pick out that you won't be able to pick out if you add milk and sugar. Like if you're ordering a pour over and you're choosing, let's say, I prefer beans from Ethiopia that might be like a washed process or something like that, because those tend to have more fruitier flavor notes. If I add milk or sugar, I'm not going to be able to taste those fruity notes anymore as opposed to if I were to drink it straight up. So that's why I recommend with these types of things to just drink as is, because that's how it's meant to be drank, so that you can taste all the flavors. I've had people at the cafe I used to work at order pour over because they're like, wow, this looks fancy and nice, and it takes time, a person is hand pouring me my coffee, etc. And then we serve it, I serve them the pour over, and I tell them to enjoy, and then they ask the dreaded question of, could I get some milk? And even worse is when they ask for milk and sugar. And I'm always very hesitant. And Because if they really wanted to appreciate the coffee that I just hand poured for them, they would not be asking for milk or sugar. But obviously, if they're asking for it, I gotta give it to them, so I have to hesitate and give it to them begrudgingly. Or at least, if you're gonna have milk and sugar, it makes more sense to have it with the batch brew coffee. Because the batch brew coffee, typically what cafes will use is something with a more chocolatey profile so that you can drink it black, or if you add milk and or sugar, it will still taste good with milk and or sugar. But with normal pour over, the flavors in there are more complex. Adding anything to it is going to change the flavors, whether it's just milk or just sugar. And so if you're going to add milk and or sugar to pour over, you may as well just get drip coffee with milk and or sugar. Because pour over with milk and or sugar is not going to taste the same, and you're just going to ruin the flavor profile and everything. So just keep that in mind if you ever are thinking about ordering a pour over. Remember that a person is hand doing this. There's a whole process. They have to stand there, count, put the timer on, pour the water in increments, and etc. We learned this in my previous stream about brewing methods, about everything that goes into a pour over, all the time and effort. So if you're just gonna add milk or sugar, just don't order it. Yeah. A lot more labor goes into pour over. So if you can help it, please drink it as is so you can appreciate all the flavors. Or at least try it alone first before you add anything to it. Okay. Yeah, but if you're gonna do, this drip coffee, then by all means, if you would like to add milk or sugar, please do. It will go better with this than with this. All right. Hopefully my message has come across. We're gonna go into the next page where we talk about iced coffee and cold brew. This is something that I see people always confuse. And before I worked at a cafe, I also was confused. I thought that iced coffee and cold brew, I thought they were the same. And turns out they are not. And the difference is, again, like with coffee and espresso, the brewing method. And we can see the differences here, where iced coffee, typically it's hot coffee that's poured over ice, or that is stored in the fridge after you brew it. So you can see here, they brewed it in the Chemex, and then poured it over ice. And that is the difference, because you brew it first and it's hot, and then you make it cold. Some coffee shops may offer, they might call it a flash chilled coffee, or they might call it a Japanese iced coffee, which refers to pour overs that are brewed over ice. So that's what that is. just normal old iced coffee, which, you know, is still good if that's what you want, as opposed to cold brew, which is brewed cold. It's not brewed hot and then poured over ice. The coffee, you grind the coffee coarsely and then you steep it in cold water overnight. I know it says 18 to 24 hours here, but typically you do it overnight. And this results in a smooth body. It's richer. You can see it's darker as well because it's brewed cold, as opposed to having it brewed hot and then you pour and dilute it with ice. I mean, you're diluting this with ice too, but this is brewed cold to begin with. So it really depends on your preference of how you want things to be brewed, and also if you want something stronger, because cold brew typically is stronger. Because, like I said, it is steeped overnight rather than brewing it and then immediately, or, you know, immediately cooling it. Iced coffee like this typically has a more lighter mouthfeel. It's lighter and more bright, if that makes sense. Whereas, you know, cold brew, it's richer, there's balanced flavors, it's a bit more mellow in the acidity. It goes better with milk and sugar, I personally think. But of course you can add milk and sugar to iced coffee. But I think if you want to add milk and sugar, cold brew would taste better. But also, if you don't want a lot of caffeine, then maybe go with iced coffee. Because it's lighter. I thought they were the same, that's why I interchanged them. Yeah, they're not the same. Cold brew, if you want to put it simply, cold brew is stronger because of longer time. That's basically it. I can tell you all my experience in having to make cold brew at the end of the day, and when you're working at a coffee shop and you're making cold brew, it has to be for a lot of people, right? So you have to grind big bags of coffee, and you have to have a big filter that you pour those grounds into, and you gotta put a lot of water. And I was carrying a lot of water up and down these stairs to pour into the grounds. So even making cold brew is quite the labor. So keep that in mind whenever you get cold brew. Yeah. These bags of coffee, they were huge. And so you pour that into the filter, and then you gotta pour all that cold water in. But you can't just leave it like that. You have to mix it so that all the grinds are fully soaked with water. The fun part is when you mix it, then you see all the crema coming out, and then at that point you know that you've mixed it well, and then you can cover it up, label it with the time and date that you started steeping it, and then you just wait. And then after it's done, the cleanup is even more labor. Because then you have to drain all the liquid. And then when you drain all the liquid, you're left with all the wet coffee grounds in that filter bag. So you gotta clean out that filter bag. You gotta throw out all the used grounds and then wash the filter bag. And then you have to wash the container that all that cold brew was steeping in, so that you can, for the next batch that you brew, it won't have any lingering cold brew from the last batch. So yeah, it's a lot of work. If you make cold brew at home, and if you use a more traditional method, then if you'll know the labor. Nowadays, you can buy cold brew bags that you can do at home, where it looks like a tea bag, but it just has coffee in it, and you just toss it in a little pitcher of water and put it in the fridge, and you just wait. And then when it's done, you just pull the tea bag or the coffee tea bag out. But in a cafe, it's not so simple like that, because you're brewing it for, the public, for customers. Yeah. For the cafe that I worked at, we used the same beans for batch brew to brew cold brew as well, so that the flavors in the profile is very similar. Yep. Yeah, that might be why, it's a little more, it's more expensive than just iced coffee. Actually, that is why. Can you make latte art? I can. And it's a good thing you mentioned that. Well, I'll talk about that a little bit later, because these are all the coffee side drinks that I've shared with you. Some coffee shops might call things by different names, but this is the general idea for all the drinks. So now that you know what the basic coffee drinks are, we can go into the espresso drinks, which are a little more interesting, or rather, the things that most people get confused about as well, because they don't know how big these things are. Most people don't know how much milk is in them or how much espresso is in them, etc. How many can you do by? I can make all of these drinks. I've had to make them all. When you're a barista, you don't just learn one thing. You learn everything. OMG, my favorite show is on. Hey. So we're gonna go into espresso drinks. We're gonna start from smallest to largest. And we're only, like I said in the beginning of the stream, we're only going to cover traditional basics for specialty coffee shops. So that's what I'm helping you with, coffee shop menus. So you're not gonna find anything that has to do with a certain franchise with the mermaid logo. All right, so espresso drinks, smallest to largest. Obviously the smallest is espresso, but we already covered that. So the next step up is a macchiato. A very controversial drink for some reason, because of that certain franchise. The term macchiato literally translates to stained or marked in Italian. So a macchiato is a marked coffee. It's typically served in basically an espresso cup. And it's made with typically a double shot with a small dollop of steamed milk foam on top. So if you look at the top right here, that little bit of foam is the little bit of milk that's in there. It's literally just a dollop. So it's just all espresso and then just a dollop of steamed milk. This is a traditional macchiato. And if you go to a specialty coffee shop and you order macchiato, this is the macchiato that you will get. Yes. So the confusion that some of you are experiencing looking at this, I know. This is the real deal. This is a real macchiato. Whatever you think a macchiato is because of a certain brand is not what a macchiato is. There is no sauce. There is no sugar or whatever. I mean, you could add sugar in this if you want, maybe like, I don't know, half a packet of sugar or something, if you so desire. But this is what it is. This small little shit right here is a real macchiato. So you can imagine the disappointment on some people's faces when they came into my coffee shop and they ordered a macchiato, and before I even put the order through, I tell them, are you sure? Because we serve a traditional macchiato. And still, people are confused. Even better is when I'm not on the register and I'm just the barista making the drinks. And whoever's on the register doesn't have the knowledge and they don't explain that. And I make the drink, I call it out. They come up to the bar, they see this little cup and they're like, I ordered a macchiato. And I'm like, and that's a macchiato. And we just have this staring competition. And I have to be like, we serve a traditional macchiato. There is your macchiato in front of you. And they just have to accept it. Or when they ask me to make a different drink, I'm like, girl, this is what you ordered. If you want another drink, go back online and order a new drink. Anyway, my tangent on macchiatos. Anybody that knows coffee, is a barista, a real barista, and has the knowledge, they know the frustration of working in a coffee shop and dealing with these people. This is a traditional macchiato. The type of cup that they serve espresso in, it's the same cup. And you just put a little dollop of steamed milk. Now, the way that we made it at our coffee shop, actually, it was a little bit more than a dollop. But it was served in the same espresso cup. I couldn't find any photos of any macchiatos I've made. I should have, because macchiatos are so cute. I've mentioned it before, the coffee shop that I worked at, in order to serve a drink, everything had to have latte art. if there was steamed milk involved. Even a macchiato. So even the macchiatos that we served had the tiniest heart inside, or even 2 hearts, or like a tulip or whatever, if you could manage that, because it's such a tiny ass cup. So I actually kind of enjoyed making macchiatos because seeing a cute tiny little heart in this tiny espresso cup was so cute. But it's strong because all it is espresso with the tiniest bit of steamed milk. So just keep that in mind. When I first started making latte art and I wasn't as experienced, and I had to make latte art in a macchiato, the amount of dicks that I drew, crazy. And obviously I can't serve that. So I had to keep remaking it until a heart came out. So because of the way that I've been trained, I can't even make like a dick shape on accident. I have to purposefully make it. I have to think in my mind, okay, the latte art that I want to do will be in a dick shape. Whereas, you know, before when I was just learning, it came out naturally. But that's because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Anyway, yeah, macchiatos. Do I regret working at a cafe? No. I am very proud to have all this knowledge and to be able to say that I can make latte art. Even though I haven't worked at a cafe, the muscle memory and the skill never goes away. And speaking of latte art, we're gonna go into the next drink, which is my favorite actually, that I order at cafes all the time, a cortado. And the image to the left is what a typical cortado looks like. And it's also a cortado that I've made. That is my latte art. I know it's a glass cup, and I checked. There's no reflections or anything, so don't worry. But yes, that is a cortado that I have made in the past. Many, many years ago when I was working. I also put / you know, in quotations, Gibraltar, because some cafes will call it a Gibraltar. It just depends on the cafe, because some people like to call it different things, but typically it's called a cortado. And as you can see, it's a small, pretty strong coffee, usually made of equal parts espresso and steamed milk. Because of how small it is, the flavors are more noticeable of the espresso. This is my favorite one because you can taste more of the espresso notes without too much milk. It's like it says, it's equal parts. So it's not too much milk, it's just the right amount. So for a lot of what my coworkers used to tell me at the cafe is that if you go to a cafe on your own and if you order a cortado, then if the barista knows coffee, then they'll know that you know about coffee. Because typically other baristas will order cortados as well. So it felt nice that it was already my favorite drink when I was learning coffee. So to be told that, I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm a barista natural or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's my favorite. It was also really, it was my favorite drink to make too, because the cup that you see it in, it's a cute cup. It's not that big. It has just enough surface to make nice latte art. And you can see, I don't know if you can, well, hopefully you can. Right here, below the rim of the cup, you can see another line right there, right? That is the amount of foam in the milk. So in a cortado, there's not a lot of foam. The milk is pretty thin so that you can make clean latte art. If this line gets thicker, that means there's more foam. And you'll see later in other images, hopefully, I don't remember, you'll see the difference. But yeah, that little light brown line here, that's the amount of foam that's in the milk that is just on top. So that's how you know what kind of milk a person steams. You know, if they serve it in a clear cup like this, you can see. But if they serve it in a cup like this where you can't see, then, you know, you'll have to use a spoon or something to scrape the foam to see how much they incorporated into the milk. But yeah, this is a cortado, my favorite one. I believe also in Australia, I think Australia and New Zealand probably, they also call it a piccolo. So if you ever see that as well, that's what you'll be getting. So cortado, otherwise known as Gibraltar or piccolo. Yeah, like the instrument. I don't really know the origin of why it was called, why they call it a piccolo, but for the Gibraltar name, it was they named it that because usually they would serve it in a Gibraltar cup, whatever that means. But yeah. Moving on to the next, moving up actually. We have a flat white and a cappuccino. Two other drinks that I think a lot of people don't really know the difference of. And it's really simple. They're pretty much the same size, except a cappuccino has more foam. And if you look at the images, you can see that the milk here is very smooth. It's very shiny. The latte art is very crisp. And that's because the milk is quite thin and doesn't have a lot of foam. Whereas here you can see there's a lot of bubbles around the surface. There's a lot of texture. And you can also see that the art here is not as refined as this art. This art is a little more, of course, there's a good contrast of color, but at the same time, you can tell by the streaks and the texture that this has much more foam. That is the main difference between these two drinks. Now, if we want to get into it more, a flat white is similar to a cortado, just a step up in size. There's just more milk. Typically served in a small glass or cup. It's a double shot, topped with milk that has been steamed with as little foam as possible, or flat milk. That's why it's called a flat white. The milk is flat, or flatter than normal. Whereas a traditional cappuccino is made with thick, dense milk foam. But nowadays, typically, a modern specialty coffee shop will serve it with medium foamed milk because they want to be able to make nice latte art as well. So it won't have as much foam as it usually should. Another point of debate, maybe this has to do with Australia and New Zealand again, but serving a cappuccino with a little chocolate powder sprinkled on top. That depends on where you are. It depends on what coffee shop, and also who's your barista. Of course, this is something that you can request if you want, but you know, some coffee shops will have it by default. Yes. The main difference is the foam between these two. Some cafes will have the flat white be smaller. It depends on the coffee shop. That's why it says here typically 6 or 8 ounces. And a cappuccino has 8 ounces. So at the coffee shop that I worked at, they were the same size. They were both 8 ounces served in the same cup, just that cappuccino had more foam. So that's the main difference. Just remember that. Flat white, flat milk. Cappuccino, more foam. And to the person who asked which one is sweeter, neither. All of these drinks are typically made with no sugar at all. You don't add sugar to espresso drinks. Or the barista doesn't add it unless if you ask them to, or you do it yourself. In a specialty coffee shop, yeah, they don't add it for you unless if you ask them. Or that's why they have the sugar, napkin, straw, whatever station on the side, so that you can add it in yourself if you want. It's really on your preference, because depending on the cafe and what milk they use can determine that if you want to add sugar or not. Because if you are just getting it with normal whole milk, I think that's sweet enough, because whole milk, when it's steamed, breaks down the sugars, it becomes naturally sweet. But if you're using skim or 2% milk, which is like water milk, it's not going to be as sweet because it doesn't have the natural sugars that whole milk has. Or if you're using like almond milk, it depends what brand, because some almond milk brands are sweeter than others. Some oat milk brands are sweeter than others, etc. So it all really depends in that way too. Yeah, some soy milk is sweeter than other soy milk. So it depends. Yeah. I will say, since we're on the topic of milks, whole milk creates the best latte art. That's just a fact. More watered down milk, aka skim or 2%, whatever percent, it's more watery. It's gonna be harder to make latte art. There's less sugars, less fat. Almond milk, pretty much the same. It's very watery. The latte art is going to be very hard to make. And the way you steam it has to be different too. The way you steam alternative milk is much different than normal milk. And also, each alternative milk requires a different method of steaming as well if you want to get the right consistency to make latte art. Um, yeah. You can steam soy milk, yeah. You just don't want to add too much air, because making latte art out of soy milk is one of the most difficult things ever. I don't mind making latte art with almond milk or oat milk, but soy milk? Bruh. If you're a barista in the chat, you know making latte art with soy milk is the worst, and it's so hard to do. No matter what, it's not gonna look as good as that could look with other milks. It almost looks like it's curdling. So, that is that. Coconut milk? Girl, I haven't had to work with coconut milk. The milks that I worked with at the cafe was, yeah, it was soy, almond, and oat. That was it. Yeah. I mean, I've made some pretty bomb latte art with almond milk, and I was very proud of it. I remember once I made it and I asked my coworker, I was like, yo, can you take a picture? It looks so good. This is almond milk. But I'm in the photo, so I can't share that with you. But it looked good for almond milk. Okay. I hope that helps simplify the differences. We're gonna go on to the larger drinks, or rather the largest, which is latte and also mocha. Can I share pics of my latte art with you? Yeah, you can use the VIOLATTE hashtag. Yeah, the largest espresso drinks are a latte and a mocha. Both are typically 12 ounces. Latte is usually the easiest drink to define. Everyone knows what a latte is, and everyone knows it's the biggest one. Many coffee shops will also offer it in different sizes, you know, small latte, large latte. But a small latte is basically just a flat white, so it kind of doesn't really make sense a lot. It just is a little arbitrary, like it says, because a typical small latte is only 8 ounces and a flat white is also typically 8 ounces. So it's kind of like, I don't know. So it really depends on the type of coffee shop you go to and what sizes they have for each drink. So take that info how you will. Yeah, like I wrote there, like most of these drinks, the differences between coffee shops often comes down to the size of their cups. Because every coffee shop uses different cups. And the cups are different sizes, so it depends. And a mocha is basically a hot chocolate with espresso. It is, or conversely, it's a latte with chocolate. So it's Like it says, it's a milk-based coffee drink with the addition of chocolate either by melting solid chocolate sauce, chocolate syrup, or chocolate powder. Typically served in the same size as a latte, with equal parts of espresso and chocolate. And you use steamed milk, you can make latte art, and you dust some chocolate powder. Making mochas and hot chocolates were always really fun for me because the cocoa powder, the chocolate powder, really makes latte art look even nicer. It makes it pop a lot, so it's very fun. I would always, you make what is it? Yeah. You put the chocolate sauce and then you put the cup underneath and the espresso drops into the chocolate sauce and you stir it up. You don't stir it vigorously because you don't want to break the crema. You just, gently mix it together. And then before you start pouring the steamed milk, you dust the chocolate powder on top. And then that's when you start with the steamed milk. And then when you make the latte art, the chocolate powder becomes like that in the photo. It separates and the art comes through. It's very nice, very fun. Yeah. So if you want a nice sweet treat of coffee, then you could get a mocha. Or if you want coffee that will last longer, you could get a latte because it's the biggest one. Yeah. Those are basically all the drinks that I have. Something that I didn't put in the slides for the espresso drink, because I put milk-based ones, right? But I forgot to include Americano. But it's very easy to explain. Americano is just hot water with espresso. That's all. Pretty self-explanatory, shouldn't be confusing. Just prepare a cup of hot water and then pour the espresso in, and that's an Americano. Same for iced. Iced Americano. It's just water and ice, and then you pour the espresso on top. Iced latte. It's just cold milk and espresso. The milk isn't steamed, it's cold. But since latte is the biggest one, there's a lot of milk. So yeah. So those are all the slides that I had. I did mention it will probably be a shorter stream than the other one, but now that we're done with the slides, we can talk more about some stories with these drinks that I have experienced. Because everyone is always confused or doesn't know what things are or has very special requests. And you tend to remember people based on their drink order instead of their name. For example, since we just mentioned Americanos, the interesting thing about Americanos is that typically they're black, right? Typically they're served with no milk or sugar, but sometimes people like to add milk or sugar, just like with drip coffee or iced coffee or cold brew. Like with all these coffees, the difference is the brewing method. And Americanos are made with the espresso brewing method. Americanos are pretty popular, so much so that there's a song about them. If you are into K-pop or if you're Korean, you know exactly what song I'm talking about, because Korean people love Americanos. That's just a fact. Korean people love hot Americanos, iced Americanos. Yeah, you know the song Americano, 좋아, 좋아, 좋아. I remember this one customer who we all knew what she looked like, and we all knew the drink that she wanted, because she would always order an Americano, but she wanted extra stuff. She wanted other things in it. But not just that. You know, a normal person would be like, can I have an Americano, but could I have milk? Or could I have milk and sugar? Or, you know, can I have room for milk if you have a separate milk and sugar station and they can add it themselves? She was not like that. She would say, can I have an Americano and can I have almond milk? But I want the almond milk on the bottom. Girl? What do you mean? What do you mean on the bottom? It's all gonna be mixed up in the end. Why does it matter if we pour the almond milk first versus putting the almond milk in after? This is coffee and milk and water. There is no layers. They all combine. It's not like oil and water. And because our espresso machine wasn't like on the top, it wasn't like a big one that you see typically on the counter, all the machinery was underneath, so that we could interact and talk with customers more face to face, you know, be more personal with our customers. So she could see what we were doing and she would watch us make it. So she could see if we weren't putting the almond milk, quote unquote, on the bottom, or putting in almond milk first before the hot water and the espresso. The amount of times that at first, you know, we didn't think it would be a problem. And she would watch. And then the barista, whoever's on at the time, they would pour the almond milk after. And she would watch them and she would be like, you didn't put the almond milk on the bottom. I watched you pour it in on the top. And then she would make a whole big deal out of it. Every time. So every time she came in, if I wasn't the barista on bar, I would have to warn them. I put in her order, I'm like, I got you, girl, because I don't want her to be crazy. Oh, she was a regular. She was a regular. So I would have to go to the barista who's on bar, if it wasn't me, and tell them, yo, you gotta show her, you gotta show her that you're pouring the almond milk first, because she wants it literally at the bottom of the cup as the first thing. She can see, she's watching. You have to do it in front of her so that she doesn't make a big scene. Craziness. I will never forget that order. My fave, midnight. I was just about to talk about that. People who don't really know what they want and they just ask for shit. They just open their mouth and a bunch of bullshit comes out. I've had somebody come in and ask me for a latte. But they said, "Can I get a latte with no milk?" So you just want a shot of espresso. You just want espresso. And she was like, no. Not just espresso. Not just espresso. I want a latte, but like I don't want milk. And I was like, the whole fucking drink is milk. What do you mean? And they were holding up the line. Good thing there were 2 registers, because I spent so long with this woman talking about a latte is espresso and milk. If you take out the milk, the only thing left is espresso. So is that what you want? And she was just like, no, I want the latte, but I just don't want the milk. And I was just like, okay, clearly we're having some sort of miscommunication. You are not telling me what you want. You think you're telling me what you want, but you're not. So I had to not sit, stand, because you gotta stand the whole time. I stood there with her, trying to get out of her what she really wanted and what she was really talking about. And I was like, okay, when you say you don't want milk, what do you actually mean by that? Like, you don't want milk altogether? Or, and then it clicked in my mind, and I was like, you don't want milk altogether, or do you want a different kind of milk? And she was like, oh, yes, I want different milk. And I was like, okay, beautiful, amazing. This is the other milk that we have. What other milk did you want? So we got there in the end. But, my God. It was like pulling teeth. It's like an adult woman. I'm just like, girl, come on. You got a job in this neighborhood where everyone is like a businessman and woman. Everyone is a business person. How did you get here? Are you new? I don't know. I don't want to assume too much, but you know, I was happy that we got there. And I was like, okay, beautiful. This is what you want. This is what you actually want, and we're gonna get it for you. Another one of my favorites is when you ask if you want something or something else, and they say yes. I've talked about this before. It's like, did you want milk or sugar? Is this for here or to go? Yes. Yes, what? Yes to which one? Fucking tiring me out, all these stupid ass motherfuckers. Not even listening. Listen to the question. Answer correctly. Don't waste both of our time and the time of the people behind you waiting in line. Yeah, they're just not listening and they just agree. Because, you know, most of these people, most of our customer base were, like I said, business people. They're on their phone, they're on their work phone, they're on their fucking Bluetooth headset, whatever the fuck their talking device is. Not even making eye contact with me. Just, yes, that's fine. That's fine, whatever. No, not whatever. You have to tell me if you're having it here or taking it away. There is no yes to both. Anyway. Drink wise, another like silly thing that I liked, but is when people ask for like iced chocolate or something, and it would be like, can I have an iced hot chocolate? And it just sounds silly, but we all know what they're talking about. It just sounds funny to say. Can I have an iced hot chocolate? I mean, you could just say, you know, can I have an iced chocolate? It's basically just chocolate milk. It's just iced chocolate, cold chocolate milk. That's what you're asking for. But nobody wants to say it like that, you know? So they say, can I have an iced hot chocolate? Or the people that actually say, like, can I have an iced chocolate? And I'm like, yeah, of course. Can I get a cold brew but hot? Can I have an iced coffee but a hot one? Can I have a hot coffee but iced? Or can I have a coffee but iced? Repeat your question in your own head. Think about it and then try and ask me a different question. The other thing, oh, this is a good one to point out. Let me go to the previous slide. We talked about the difference between a flat white and a cappuccino. We went over this. Some people will ask for a cappuccino with no foam or a cappuccino with less foam. And at that point, I'm like, okay, you don't know what anything is. You're just saying stuff. You just want coffee, hot coffee. Sorry. You just want espresso and hot milk. Because the whole point of a cappuccino is the foam. And you want no foam. Okay, that's fine. Sometimes, you know, on the long days, I wouldn't even explain it to them. And I would just put in an order for a flat white. I love giving people what they order and them getting mad. That's what I'm saying. It happens so much. And so when I'm not the one making the drink, the person on bar, the barista, bless their heart, they have to be like, so-and-so's name, flat white. And they're just like, that's not what I ordered. I ordered a cappuccino with no foam. And if the barista on bar has any sense, and if they're awake enough, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. But if not, then I have to walk over there and be like, yes, a cappuccino with no foam is basically a flat white. That's why it says flat white on the receipt. This is your drink. Yes, there is no foam, or there's a lot less foam than a cappuccino. So just take it and go. I'm glad that a lot of you can relate to these things, and there's a lot of you baristas in the chat, and you know what I'm talking about, and you know what these experiences are. Who knew? Before I worked at this cafe, I had worked at a different cafe too. And I didn't know that there was this whole other world of coffee. And then I worked at the cafe I worked at for like 3+ years. And I was like, wow, coffee is a whole other thing. And there's a whole other customer base of idiots that don't know anything. Not, okay, some are idiots, but some are just uneducated. That's all. They just don't know. Honestly, the worst part for me is when they check out and they say, it says insert my card. What does that mean? I just go, what do you think it means? That hasn't happened to me before. That's crazy. What do you mean? What are you talking about? At the cafe that we worked at, we took the card from them so that we could swipe it, or, you know, whatever, for them, so that they don't have to do anything. Do you have ice cream? I want my coffee with ice cream. Thankfully, at my cafe, we did not serve affogatos. Thankfully. Oh, the other thing, the coffee shop that I worked at, they started to branch out and they opened a location closer to these corporate offices. People who work in corporate office buildings have the most specific orders. And they have to have it the way they explain it, or else. It's like that Americano with almond milk on the bottom lady, or what you would imagine in The Devil Wears Prada. They need to have their coffee a specific way, or else they will be upset, or else we will hear it from them in one way or another, either directly by them or from their assistant. And because we were a specialty coffee shop, you know, it's not like a certain franchise slash brand where you can make all of these edits and it'll be fine. We had limitations because we don't have a fucking 16-ounce hot size or whatever. Our largest latte is 12 ounces because that's how large a latte typically is. I worked at that location a lot, actually, and that's kind of how I got my start working in a corporate office job after I worked at the cafe, because I made some connections. But the amount of modifications that people would try to make as much as they could, because we weren't, you know, bucks, was wild. They wanted to see how much they could get away with, you know? They want to see if they can get something extra hot. They want to see if they can get something with no foam. They want to see if they can get something with stevia or a specific amount of sugar, etc. Syrup, I don't know. And I remember, let's see if I can remember this one woman, bless her heart, because she actually was very nice to us. But her drink order always had me going crazy. But she knew her drink order was crazy, and that's why she was so nice to us. She was like, I know. And she was a regular. So every time she walked in, she would be like, hi, can I have my usual nonsense? So I was like, okay, I appreciate that you know that what you're getting is crazy. So I'll make it for you every time. Large latte. Almond milk, extra hot, no foam, with cinnamon and 5 brown sugars stirred in. And if you are a barista, you know the sound that almond milk makes when you steam it with no foam is crazy. It's even crazier when you have to make it extra hot. It sounds like a fucking banshee screaming in the room. If you're getting almond milk with no foam, you're asking for people to know that your presence is there. If you're steaming milk properly, the milk should not be screaming at you. But when you're steaming almond milk with no foam, it is screaming at you. Imagine the customer is watching the stream. I really doubt she is. If she is though, then she'll know. I appreciated having her as a customer. I really did, even if I had to make that crazy ass drink. She knew it was crazy, but she was very nice and acknowledged the craziness. And that's why I would make it for her every time. More than once a day, mind you. She had an assistant, so it wasn't always her. Sometimes it would be her assistant, and they wouldn't even need to say the drink. They would be like, hi, I'm getting coffee for her. And I would be like, say less. Just give me the card. Just give me the credit card. That's the crazy thing about working at a cafe and having regulars like that. You build a relationship with the people that are actually, you know, nice to you, or you create a relationship with their assistant who is always there. Yeah. What other really specific drinks were there in that when I was working by that building? A lot of people wanted extra hot drinks. They wanted it scalding. But that's because since they worked in a corporate office, they wanted their drink to stay hot for as long as possible. And I can understand that, but at that point, if you really want it to stay hot as long as possible, yo, just come over to the cafe, bring your fucking like thermos or whatever, and we'll make the coffee in there. And that way it will stay hot for as long as the thermos says it will. Then I won't have to make scalding hot milk and tiptoe around the pitcher so that I don't fucking burn myself with hot milk. You know? So, oh yeah, and if you're like, you know, if you're working in a corporate office and you're making a good amount of money, get yourself a self-heating mug. I don't know. Because at that point you don't really care too much about the integrity of the coffee. You just want it to be hot and have the right flavors. So, I don't know. There's a guy who wanted an extra hot Americano, but the water is 200 degrees Celsius, and the Maestrino only steams to 190 Celsius without bubbling over. You know, okay, you know the secret to making an extra hot drink in like an actual ceramic to stay mug? This is what you do, okay? Don't quote me, don't, you know, use me as a reference if you're not already doing this. What you do is, whatever mug you're using, whatever, if it's glass, if it's ceramic, whatever it is, fill that mug with the hottest water you have and just let it sit in there. While you are pulling the espresso shot, while you're steaming the milk. If you want to, you can even, you know, pour the water out and literally just cover the cup in the hot water so that it's hot to the touch. You heat the cup. You heat the cup as hot as you can, and then you steam the drink normally. Maybe you make it a little bit hotter, sure. And then you pour it in the cup. And just, I don't know, use a towel or something to hold that cup because you know it's hot as fuck because you just poured boiling hot water over it. Have I mentioned it before? I hope I have, because that's what I did. Whatever the machine has the boiling water set at is what it's set at. We cannot change that. We're not gonna make it hotter just for one person. But we can make it feel hotter. And as long as you believe it's extra hot and you drink it anyway, everyone's fine. Okay, cool. Well, for anyone who hasn't heard this tip before, that's my tip for extra hot drinks. Because, you know, people are so particular about that, and they always want something extra hot or extra hot, or they'll ask for as hot as you can make it, and I'm just like, girl, you want to drink burnt milk? That's not a fun thing to do. It's not a good sensation, it's not a good flavor. I wish this worked for to-go cups. I would do it to to-go cup. I would do it for to-go cups as well. I would just double cup it. Double cup it, fill it with hot boiling water. And then when you're ready to put the drink in, pour that water out and pour the drink in. You just double cup it. And then when you give it to them, you know, it's hot to the touch and you can just be like, you said extra hot, be careful. Can I ask, is it okay to bring your own mug / thermos in a cafe? I don't want to seem rude. What I'll say to that is it doesn't hurt to ask. Because the worst thing that can happen is that they say no, or they say, oh, we can't do that. Then, you know, you just put it away and then you get it in whatever cup they serve it to you in. Or, you know, you get it in whatever cup they serve it to you in, and then you pour it into your thermos. Playing mind games? You have to play mind games with some of these people. Because otherwise you cannot get through the day. Otherwise you cannot get through the rest of your days with your sanity intact, whatever sanity is left. Do people order hot coffee in summer? All the time. People order hot coffee in the summer, people order cold coffee in the winter. You know that thing that they say about gays always drink iced coffee no matter the season? Kind of like that. You know, some people, Asian people love drinking hot drinks during the summer. You know? So, yeah, everyone does whatever they prefer, whatever they like. Whatever makes sense to them, whatever they want to do. Yeah, some people live in summer temperatures all year round, so it doesn't even matter. Sometimes, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes when it's hot out, sometimes I still order a latte, or not even latte, just like a hot drink with latte art, because I want to see the latte art, because I want to take a nice photo. Just simple as that. And then if it's too hot for me to drink, I just wait until it cools down, you know? I take a nice photo and then I wait for it to cool. Anyway, what other stories can I think about? I did talk about a few stories back when, you know, a long time ago, maybe like a few years ago, when I played, what is it? The night shift? The closing shift. If any of you were there for that, or if you haven't, you can check it out, because at the end of the game, towards the end of stream, I talk about some of my experiences. Well, more specifically, the bad ones, because of the nature of that game. So, if you want to hear about those stories. Hold on. I missed some things. Because I got so into telling the stories. But Tsuneha, Orthan, Sinna, and Reina, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, Reina, welcome to the Ukiverse. Sorry, that's what I meant. The customers never write with the barista. Put that on a shirt right now. I'm so tired. But nothing beats a 2 hour. I'm okay, I'm lucky enough that my manager, when I was working at the coffee shop, she would always, during, staff meetings, she would always be the one to be like, um, I know they always say the customer is always right, but the customer is not always right. And I would be like, wow, you are a great voice of reason. That's how I knew, like, I'm gonna work at this cafe for a long time. Jin, thank you for the 10 gifted. Thank you, thank you. Yeah. The customer is rarely right. Yes. I agree with that. I mean, I have my fair share of, moments where I cried. Moments where you go into the walk-in fridge downstairs or wherever, and you just stand in there and cry and let the cold temperature dry up your tears. And you let the cold temperature try to cool you off from being sad. That meme? What meme? Crying in the walk-in refrigerator is a meme? That's not a meme, that's real life. I've done that so much. You haven't worked a cafe job if you haven't done that. I clocked out because I was so mad. Yo. It's just some... it's... majority of the time, it's that entitlement of customer and server, or customer and person providing the service. And the entitlement is there, and it's just like, I don't know if you realize, but all of us in this place, we're all human, in case if you forgot. And in case if you also forgot, things don't always go your way. So, I thought you're American? I am American. What do you mean? You gave attitude right back? That's bold. You're very strong. I mean, I also didn't always take things lying down, Sometimes it's just, and the other thing is, the coffee shop I worked at, we also served food, It wasn't just pastries. We had pastries too, but there was also food. So, those business people, they would get coffee and then, food to go for their lunch breaks and stuff like that. And it wasn't just finger food or really small bites or whatever. We had a few salads, a few sandwiches, things like that. Pretty solid meals. So a lot of the time people would eat in, or people who didn't work in the area would eat in. But we were not a big coffee shop by any means. So, you know, if you are ordering with me and you're looking around and there's no seat and you want to order to eat in, good fucking luck, because I'm not gonna tell people to get up for you. And when I'm putting in your order, I establish that and I tell them there's no seat right now. Are you sure you want to have this to have here and not to go? Or are you gonna just get it for here and hope that something opens up? And you know, people do that. They hope that something will open up. And then they get mad at me for not having a seat. And I'm like, well, remember what I said when I put your order in? Remember? I warned you. I already told you the circumstances. But you didn't want to listen to me. Or you wanted to have hope, but now that your hope is crushed, you want to blame it on me. That happened many times in my coffee shop. But I remember one instance where this guy and his girlfriend, or whoever the fuck she was, because they would come in quite often actually during the weekends. And you know, on the weekend, there's mad people coming in, dining in. So you're never gonna get a seat unless if you wait around or come early. And they'd just be standing there holding their plates, looking at me and blaming me and telling me like, what are we supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, you see a spot on the counter, then put your shit there and stand there and eat it until a table opens up and you can sit down. You brought this upon yourself. Or do you want me to pack it up for you to go? Because I would gladly do that so that you don't have to just stand here with your plates, like you just said. And after I was done dealing with them, I went into the staff office little area, whatever, and just cried a little bit. Not because I was sad, but because I was so fucking frustrated. And then I would come out after I'm done, because you know, you gotta cry fast because you're still on the clock. I would come back out and then just look at them and do a great creepy customer service smile while they stand around with their plates, or while they're standing by the counter eating their food. And I'm just like, you want some water? One lady called the cops because I wouldn't tell a customer to leave. What? That's crazy. I would have my coworkers cracking up because I would look crazy when I smiled. That's so good. Oh man, what a wild time. What a wild period of life. A lot of crazy things happen. Like, you always hear about these stories, and you don't really, like, of course they're real and you can kind of empathize to a point, unless But then once you actually are in it and you're working it or you're experiencing it for yourself, then you're like, oh shit, this actually happens. Or something even worse happens and you're like, oh wow, I feel like this only happens in movies, but it happens in real life too. Unfortunately. I had one lady yell at me that I didn't deserve to live in the country. Oh my god. Like, ma'am, it is not that serious. I almost crashed when a rude customer asked me if there's chicken in a chicken sandwich. Stop. I want to say, is that real? But I know it is because I've experienced it. I mean, I just talked about somebody who asked for a latte with no milk. Sometimes, so I said how my coffee shop had served food. Sometimes we'd have soup too, which was nice during, you know, the cold months. We would have soup. One time we had chicken noodle soup. And we did, you know, what is it called? Like DoorDash, Grubhub, Seamless, whatever. And, which by the way, I was a god at locking that system down and keeping everything in order. And some lady called to ask like, oh, you know the chicken noodle soup? It comes with noodles, right? Ma'am, it's in the fucking name. Why do you think it's called chicken fucking noodle soup? Anyway. We gotta bring this back. Bring it back to coffee. Because now I'm just talking about service and the service industry. We lost. No, ma'am, the chicken noodle soup does not come with noodles. Oh my god. So good. I can look back on all this and laugh now. I mean, I was laughing in the moment too, but also like just in disbelief. It's just so crazy. I'm lucky that I really loved working with my coworkers, and that my coworkers at the time were so fucking funny. Because we all felt the same way, we all reacted the same way, and we all would deal with it pretty much the same, and still with a good bit of professionalism. Oh, you know what I also hate? Breve. I didn't include it in the list of drinks because rarely is that ever a thing, but people ask for it. Cinna, you know. for those of you that don't know, breve is when you make a drink with half and half instead of milk. They ask when it's not on the menu. Of course! That's like the bane of a coffee shop's existence. Everyone asking for something that's not on the menu. People asking for modifications that are not on the menu. I absolutely hate when people ask for that. It's just like, if you were asking me for, if it's like a small drink, I don't know, like if you want a macchiato and instead of whole milk you want a little bit of half and half, I'm just like, you know, I think you're weird, but I'll do it because there's only a little bit. If you're straight up asking me for a breve latte, I'm gonna think that there's something wrong with you. Straight up. Because why do you need to be drinking a 12-ounce cup of hot, steamed half and half? That sounds disgusting. People put a splash of half and half in their coffee. People put a little bit of cream in their hot coffee or whatever. People put a splash because a splash is all you need. But you're telling me you want to drink a big ass 12-ounce cup of it? Is whole milk not enough milk fat for you? Now, if you're in chat and you've ordered breve, or if you, God forbid, enjoy breve, I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry. Because why? And it's not one of those things where it's like, oh, don't knock it till you try it. I've tried it. Some of these crazy drinks that people order, my coworkers and I, we would try them if we had downtime. Because we were like, okay, let's just see what it's like. Why does this person enjoy this drink or whatever? And I did not enjoy any of them. Any of these crazy drinks. I have tried a breve latte because I wanted to know, because my coworkers and I wanted to know. And we did not enjoy that experience. We have drank different things that people have ordered because of how wild they sound. And none of them are good. I would say like 95% of them are not good. And it's really, really just a specific thing to that person. And I mean, if you are ordering it and you're nice about it, or if you're not being crazy and you're just a normal customer, then, you know, it doesn't matter what I think. I'm still gonna make it for you. Because you're a paying customer and you're also not being rude or weird to me, the person making your drink. So, you know, all's fine and good. It's just my personal opinion that I just, and I think most baristas' opinions are just kind of like, that sounds a little crazy. I'm putting all my past customers on blast right now. They don't even know who I am. They don't even know. They probably don't even care about where I went after I left the cafe. I remember once, actually, this guy who worked in that business area, he was also a regular, and he always came in. He was cool with everyone. So, you know, we always did what he wanted, because it wasn't that difficult. He always ordered a shot of espresso with 2 sugars mixed in. He wanted us to mix it for him. And every time he would walk in, and then we get it started before he even places his order. Shot of espresso, 2 brown sugars, we mix it in for him. And one day I decided to try it because I was like, he orders it every time. Why does he want 2 sugars with his espresso? And I tried it and I was like, yo, this shit is gross. And I realized at that point, I think he really only drank it for function and not because it tastes good. I think he wanted the shot of espresso to get through his day, and maybe he added the sugar to make it more bearable. That's my personal opinion. If he likes the taste, then good on him. I'm glad we can make it for him every time. But that shit was gross. That was not okay. There's other drinks that people would have specific requests that were always like fine, you know? Like this one lady who would always come in and she would always order a cortado. And obviously, because it's my favorite drink, I was always happy to make it for her. Actually, you know what it was? I'm remembering now. It's all coming back. She would always order, I think a cappuccino. She would get a cappuccino with 1 sugar, 1 brown sugar. And instead of us doing it, she wanted to mix it in herself. So we would serve it to her with a packet of brown sugar on the side with a spoon so that she could do it for herself. And she would get it to go. So it's not like she sat down and, you know, took her time. She would stand there, open it in front of us, you know, and stir it in front of us, and then be like, thank you, whatever. Which is fine, like, you know, if you want to do it yourself, that's cool. We just have to clean up after you. And then one day she went on a trip to Australia. She came back and she was like, before we could put in her order, because she knew that we knew her usual, and she changed it up and she was like, you know, everyone in Australia drinks it like this. I'm gonna have a cortado with 1 sugar instead of a cappuccino. And I was like, all right. I was like, okay. And then that's what she ordered from then on. I didn't think it was annoying. I just thought it was funny. I was like, oh, you travel to a foreign country and you were like, oh, I'm gonna do it like they do. Listen, as long as you enjoy it and it doesn't, you know, inconvenience us too much, change it up. By all means, keep us on our toes. It makes the job a little more exciting, I guess. I can't with you. I hate it when my iced Americano heavy ice splash of oat milk and 1 pump of cinnamon vanilla will walk through the door. I'm dead. Oh my god. I don't know his name. It's okay. I don't know any of these people's names either. That's what I'm saying. You just remember people by their drink. You don't remember their name. You know what they look like and you know what they drink. That's it. The only reason why I knew anybody's name would be because they came often enough throughout the day, you know, so that I started to remember their name. Or I remember their name because their assistant would come in, you know, and that's how I learned it. But no, you know people by drink. They come in and you're like, hey, good morning. Cold brew with oat milk? Or, you know, cortado with 1 sugar? Or large almond milk latte, extra hot, no foam, 5 brown sugars and cinnamon? And when we would talk with our coworkers too, we would refer to them like that, and they would know who we're talking about. You know, when you make a relationship with these people, they start telling you about their life, you know, or just things that happen, maybe exciting things, and you would just be like, oh, you know, that lady came in today to talk about her son or whatever, and it's like, which lady? And I'll be like, oh, you know, cappuccino with 1 sugar. The handsome rich guy who comes in for a doppio every morning at 9:15 a.m. on the dot, my beloved. I had my share of crushtomers. But I never went through with any of them. I think it's messy. It's too messy to go out with a customer. It's too messy. You gotta keep it a crush. It gets to, it's like, it's the same way I feel about going out with coworkers. So no coffee shop AU? It's called an AU for a reason. Wow, I talked about stories for a while. Every time I think I'm not going to talk a lot, but once I get started talking about when I worked at the coffee shop, or when I talk about coffee, I just go off. And then the time leaves me because I always have more to say. The good old days. Oh my god, stop. The days when I actually went outside. Yeah, the stories are always gonna be entertaining because the craziest shit always happens. Like I said, I talk more about it in that one stream where I played the closing shift. When you think it can never get crazier, that's when you should stop thinking that way, because something crazier ends up happening. Wasn't this therapeutic though? It was. I hope I know that you said it was therapeutic for you. This is therapeutic for me too. Baristas in the chat. I'm the barista in the chat. I just know you have crazier stories. I do. I just don't know if I should share them all. I'll see y'all on the twit longer is crazy. You gotta make a Google Doc or something. Dear Diary, today some crazy shit happened. Okay, well, I guess if you don't want to watch that stream or watch the ending, some stuff that I shared, people trying to come into the store when we were closed. One time, one of our locations, we had a curtain that would come over the door or come over like the opening, the entrance, so that you can't come in. Like clearly we're closed because the curtain is half closed or like 3/4 closed. And you know what? It doesn't even matter because people will crawl under the curtain to come out and be like, "Are you guys still open? Or can I get a quick coffee, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Who are you? Where did you come from? Crawl back from whence you came. Because no. What the fuck is your problem? Crawl back through the entrance you crawled in from, because that's fucking weird." Yeah, get out. We are cleaning. We are closed. I will not give you a quick coffee. Like, are you for real? Who does that? Like, I understand if, I don't know, if you knock on the door or if you try to open the door and it's locked and you leave. But if you're trying to, if you're trying to open the door to a cafe and it's locked and you look in and you ask if they're closed, what the fuck do you think? No, the door is locked because we're open and I don't know, like why else would the door be locked? That is crazy enough. I never thought I would experience the crawling under the curtain thing. That really just, that sent me. Like I was cleaning the machines, putting the coffee beans back in the bags, vacuuming, cleaning up the coffee machines, the espresso machines, and whoever just crawls out from under the curtain, and I'm just like, I stopped what I was doing and I just looked at them and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I don't know. What else? Most cafes have, what is it? Glass windows and glass front doors. One closing shift, somebody threw, I don't know what it was. I think somebody threw like a rock or something and smashed all the glass. That was fucking crazy. That's what I keep saying. You think that something crazier will not happen, but something crazier always does. So, I don't think they paid for that. It was a hit and run. Like, I think it was a drive-by actually. So, yeah. Yep. Shit is crazy. But anyway, I hope that this second installment of my coffee training series has helped some of you better understand a coffee shop menu, how to navigate it, what the different drinks are, and maybe, hopefully, help you figure out your next favorite drink. I forgot all. That's okay. That's okay. You can watch the VOD. You can watch the VOD and rewind and take notes again, or just, take screenshots. Yeah. And I hope you remember some of my tips. Things that are okay to ask for and things that are not okay to ask for. If you want to get one of these milk-based espresso drinks and you want to add sugar, go for it. Ask for it. Just don't ask for a crazy amount. If you want alternative milk, because some of us are lactose intolerant, that's okay too. But just be mindful of what you ask for and the amount of labor that you are asking for. Fuzzy Navel, thank you for the super. Arigato, thank you. I'm actually going to a cafe later today, so I'm gonna try to order with everything I learned from you in mind. Okay, I hope it helps. I hope it helps you make sense of things too. Because like I said before earlier on, every coffee shop is different. Sometimes they have different names for things, sometimes they offer different stuff. Yeah. Like I said, I only covered really traditional basic stuff. Cafes will always have, seasonal drinks, or maybe they'll have trendy stuff that are not very typical. Just remember, those things you'll need to do your own research on because trends are always changing, seasons are always changing. But the drinks that I have showed on stream today will all always be a core part of a coffee shop menu. So at least you'll know that these drinks will always be there. But maybe whatever seasonal, it's summer now, right? Whatever, I don't know, summer chai latte with lavender and whatever may not always be there. Jenny, thank you for the super. Good luck if you really do want to try it. Reesmo, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Yeah. And don't let a certain franchise of coffee skew your knowledge of what coffee really is. Because it has successfully skewed many people's minds. Ignis, thank you for the super. Thank you. How do you feel about K-cup machines? And can we have a coffee series but at home? Yeah, I can think about it. I'll try. Let's see what I can gather. Those machines, I don't really like them. Of course, they're very convenient and they're very good for people who are busy. My main issue is just with the cups, because it's just very, majority of the time they're not like biodegradable or anything. It just creates a lot of waste, like unnecessary waste. Now, if you're using biodegradable cups or whatever, then awesome. If it works for you and it works for your lifestyle. I just don't think they taste very good either. Apart from, you know, the waste factor. There's reusable ones? That's good. Yeah, that's good then. We have a Keurig. Yeah, a lot of people do. Vivian, welcome back. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad I could help. I don't know why it took me all these years to finally do a coffee training series, but, you know, we're here now. I think I just didn't realize that people would be interested. But it's good to know that people actually are, and people are actually learning stuff. Yeah, but I hope that this presentation was able to help you guys. If anything, hopefully the stories were entertaining at the end. Maho, thank you for the super. Thank you. Mild or strong? It depends on my mood. It depends what time of day. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, but I can't wait to prepare for the next installment. Not really sure what I'll do, but I'll think about it and hopefully plan one out and not wait too long for the next one, because I think it's been, how long has it been since the last one? It's been like 2-3 weeks or something. I think that's too long. I gotta prepare better, or prepare sooner. Yeah. But I'm gonna go ahead and set up our redirect to Vanti. He's playing Animal Crossing. He's playing Animal Crossing again. I'm so happy that he's gonna be playing Animal Crossing. Can't wait to see. Zenobia, welcome back. Thank you so much. Matcha. Oh, matcha coffee? You know, matcha and espresso actually isn't so bad together, depending on where you go. Or like a matcha espresso latte. Or sorry, I don't even know what to call it, because I haven't really drank too many of those. Dirty matcha, I guess that's what it would be too. Dorama, welcome back for 3 years. Oh my god, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Yippee. I did work at a coffee shop for a really short time after my office job, around, yeah, a few months before my actual debut, where we did serve matcha lattes. I forget what other non-coffee drinks we had. What else did we have? Oh, we had a turmeric latte too. The coffee shop that I worked at for like 3+ years, we did not have that. We didn't even have matcha. Yeah, but yeah, I've made matcha lattes turmeric latte. What else? Ugh, I don't remember. It was so long ago. But yeah, I hope that I will see you guys at the next installment. I'll be streaming again tomorrow before Vanty's 3D. A few of us will be playing Mario Party Jamboree for a few hours before Vanty's 3D. So I hope to see you then. Otherwise, everybody, please make sure to stay hydrated, eat something if you're hungry, take care of yourselves and take care of each other when you can. Oh, hi, Jonah. Hello. I hope you've been well. But yeah, I'm gonna send you guys to Vanty. He's gonna be streaming in 20-ish minutes, more Animal Crossing, so if you wanna chill before his stream starts, please feel free. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Mario Party Jamboree. Ignis, thank you for the super, thank you. Yeah, there's not a lot of things I yap about a lot, but coffee is one of them. So but yeah, thank you guys so much. See you tomorrow. Mwah. Bye bye. Bye bye. Amo, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Bye bye, everybody. Bum 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 bum. That's all.